Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nick Scrutton and this is Gimme Market Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing a technical video for you guys. Going to be talking about shaft length. Is longer quicker? Does it produce more club head speed? Does it produce more distance? Or does it just make the driver harder to hit? We're going to hit some shots, talk about the data, we're going to get into it. All right, so welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to do a slightly more technical video for you guys. Today I'm going to be talking about shaft length in drivers. Over the years, driver shafts have continued to get longer and longer, and we're almost up as a sort of a standard length, let's say, at like 46 inches now, which is, you know, if you turn it back to the turn of the century, 2000, people like Tiger, for example, he was using steel shafts in his driver, and they were about 43.5 inches. So we're nearly 3 inches longer than we were 25 years ago now. I know 25 years ago is a long time ago, and technology has moved on. But I think when it comes to driver, the longer shaft length hasn't necessarily done amateur golfers any favors, because it's effectively making the driver a little bit more difficult to hit. But why are the manufacturers making shafts longer in the first place? Well, the theory would be the longer the shaft, the longer the lever, the more club head speed we can produce. But is that actually the case? So what I'm going to do today, I've got two drivers here and I've got two different shaft lengths. I've got one at 45 3/4, so 45.75. And I've got the other one, which is 2 inches shorter than that. So quite a difference there in terms of shaft length. I'm moving back, almost back towards where we were at the turn of the century. Apart from we're not hitting steel today, I'm still gonna be using graphite. Shaft weights on these are identical, profiles very similar as well. I'm gonna be using the same head. I'm gonna see if there's any drop off in club head speed and therefore ball speed. The other side of this question as well is whether the shorter shafts actually make it easier to hit the middle of the face and therefore give us straighter drives. So I'm also going to be doing a bit of a comparison on dispersion as well. So I'm going to hit some shots with each, go through the data with you guys, and we'll come up with a little bit of a conclusion on whether longer shaft length means more distance or whether actually it's not doing you any favors at all. All right, team, so I'm going to hit 5 drivers here for you, quite a small sample size, but I'm hoping I'm going to hit some good drives for you here. I'm going to use the 45 3/4 or 45.75 inch shaft to start with. This is pretty much the standard length that you are finding in TaylorMade, Ping, Callaway. A lot of the top manufacturers now, they've gotten longer and longer and longer in aid of trying to create and help you guys create more club head speed. But is it making this thing more difficult to hit? I'm gonna hit some. We're gonna also measure dispersion on these drives as well. Then I'm gonna flip in the shorter shaft and we're gonna hit the shorter shaft, and we're just gonna see if there's much of a difference there. So let's hit some shots. Okay guys, so got a bit of a sample group there with the longer shaft. I think a couple of things worth noting. The shaft length that I use is actually 45 inches on the dot, so it's about 3/4 of an inch shorter than the driver I've just hit. And so it's actually going to be a little bit longer than this one that I'm going to hit here. So this will probably take a little bit of adapting. What I would say with the longer shaft there that I found really interesting just before I do hit the shorter shaft was definitely felt like the strike was moving around the face a little bit for me. And it felt like it was much easier to kind of the strike to move into the heel area, and therefore I did notice with the shots that I hit there was a couple of spins were a little bit higher than where I'd expect to be, and I think you'll find that quite interesting how the length can affect the strike on the face as well. I just found it a little bit more difficult to kind of find the face angle that I wanted particularly. We're going to hit the shorter shaft driver now, same head. I say this is under 44 inches, which is quite interesting. It's 2 inches shorter, so 43 3/4. Let's see if I find it any easier to square the face up and to hit the same distance effectively as well. So let's hit some shots. Well, I said I'm going to hit a sample size, but I mean, I think the first shot kind of tells the story straight away there, but let me hit some more. Okay guys, so that was really interesting from my part as well. So obviously, as I mentioned there, hitting two different shafts, or shafts in terms of one single head, but two different shaft combinations in terms of the length. We've got one at 45 3/4 and one at 43 3/4. So 2 inches difference. One of them's closer to a freewood. One of them's a standard driver length nowadays. And I just found that really interesting. The data, I'm gonna throw it up below. You're gonna see here, there really isn't any difference there whatsoever. My personal perspective on that would be I found the shorter shaft much easier to square the face up and see more of my sort of natural shot shape, which is typically a little draw is what I want to see. Wasn't swinging it particularly great in that session, so did miss a couple out to the right hand side, but that was totally me, not the club. But I have to say I found it much easier to find the middle of the face, and the ball speed was almost identical, as you'll see below in terms of the data there. Carry yardage, almost identical. I hit one with the longer driver where I got a little bit more total yardage out of it. And that was my longest drive of the 10 drives that I hit there. But overall, the averages are almost identical. So my personal perspective there would be, and from a fitting perspective, you know, if I was in a fitting there, if I was picking a new driver, I would definitely be looking at the slightly shorter options. Now, what I would say as a bit of a caveat to that, I did almost find the 43 3/4 almost a little bit too short. So it was definitely easier than the longer shaft for me. But the caveat to that would be, I did feel like almost it was a little bit light. There wasn't enough club there for me to pull against. And I did miss a couple of drives to the left-hand side. So you've got to find that middle ground. For me, I think that's about 45 inches. For you, that might be something slightly different. So obviously you always recommend hitting these drivers if you get the opportunity to, before you go ahead and you make a purchase. If you get the opportunity to have a fitting or to talk to a professional about it as well, I would always recommend that as well, obviously. But really interesting. Definitely no gain in club head speed. Definitely no gain in ball speed. And as I say, apart from the one drive that I did hit a little bit longer total yardage, there was no gain in terms of the carry yardage or the total yardage overall for the average of those 10 shots. So the question I'm going to pose back to the manufacturers and back to you guys is, do we need to start thinking about bringing shaft length back down again to ultimately make the drivers easier to hit for the average amateur golfer? And is it actually going to benefit us in terms of hitting more fairways and hitting longer drives as well? Some food for thought there, I think, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Have you tried longer drivers, not getting on with them? Have you effectively had drivers shortened, or have you actually, when you've been in for your fitting, identified that the driver had to be shorter and you asked for it to be shortened anyway for you guys? What driver length do you guys play? Let us know in the comments below. We'd like to open a bit of discussion here. I think it's a really interesting subject that we can get into. When as a former career, when I've been a fitter and I've fitted guys, shaft length is always coming to the equation. It always should do. So if you're going for a driver fit, make sure you're talking and make sure you try some different length drivers as well. Hope you found some real benefit in that one today. If you did, please give the video a like. And if you haven't already, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps when it comes to this sort of stuff on social media and YouTube. Guys, great to always talk to you guys and give you some information. Look forward to the next video with you guys always. See you soon.